The Trump administration's flurry of executive orders in his first few weeks of office have brought about sweeping changes, and we're not just talking about the federal government. Some legal experts say our country could be headed toward a constitutional crisis as the president pushes the boundaries of his powers. Take a look at this. Yesterday, a federal judge in Rhode Island said the Trump administration ignored his order to unfreeze billions of dollars of federal aid and is directing Trump to restore the funds. Meanwhile, the president's allies are challenging the role of the judicial branch, with Vice President J.D. Vance recently saying, quote, judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. And just this morning, Elon Musk weighed in, posting, quote, democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. So what does that mean? CBS News legal analyst Jessica Levinson is here to talk about the battle over checks and balances. Good morning, Jessica. Just to start us off, aren't federal judges well within their right to review any actions that they deem to be, or that others deem to be unconstitutional?
Well within. So for more than 220 years, we have understood that federal judges have a role to play here. And then when it comes to certain decisions that are made by our political branches, by the president and by Congress, that the federal judiciary can say, you know what, that actually transgresses your authority under the Constitution, or this statute that you passed and that you signed, it violates the Constitution. Or, as we've seen many times more frequently recently, this executive action violates the Constitution. So does it sometimes anger the president or members of Congress? Do they want to accomplish something and then federal judges say, no, I'm sorry, you can't? Absolutely. But is that baked into our system of checks and balances? I would say it certainly has been for hundreds of years.
So, Jessica, J.D. Vance, the vice president, who has a law degree from Yale, not for nothing, he says judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. It sounds like a lot rests on this question of what legitimate power is. Do I have that right?
Tony, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that word legitimate is doing an enormous amount of work there, as I would say to my students when we're reading a case. Yes, I think a lot is hinging on legitimate. And of course, the assumption there is that you can only check illegitimate actions. And frankly, that's our entire setup, right? The assumption behind judicial review is that judges aren't going to substitute their own judgment, aren't going to say, you know, here's the policy I would prefer. That they will say, here is what is within the bounds of what you can do under the Constitution. So yes, I agree. A lot writing on that word legitimate.
So, Jessica, our system depends on people respecting the different components of it, and one of them for 200 years plus has been judicial review. Can you think of any precedent for the executive branch or a company or anybody just defying the order of a judge and continuing the action that the judge has said is not constitutional?
Well, I'm a lawyer, so I'll say yes and no, in the sense that certainly there has been pushback and sharp elbows. And we have had moments where presidents really have not wanted to comply until the moment that they absolutely have to. I mean, this is why we have contempt of court, because people don't always comply immediately with judicial decisions. But Tony, as to the broader question, no, I do not think that we've ever been here where.
Oh, she froze.
Yeah, we lost her. And she brings up a point of contempt of court. You know, I was going to ask, what recourse do judges have if the administration continues, in the judge's view, to not comply with their orders? Technically, they could be held, these officials named in a lot of these lawsuits could be held in contempt of court, but that would be quite something if it went that far.
That's its own unbelievable brinkmanship and crisis. Hope people listen to the courts.
All right. We'll see. Jessica Levinson, thank you for joining us. We'll get you back hopefully later today, if not a day soon.